Privacy rules are the most important safeguard you have to protect your users' data, and I'd strongly encourage you that you get to know them well and make a habit of implementing them from the moment you create as well as edit your data type. Privacy rules act on the server side, making it impossible for data to be stolen, tampered with, or accidentally leaked, okay? Since this information never leaves the server. And Bubble has strong security features in place, but we don't enforce them. It's up to you as a developer of the app to use them in the right way, to make sure that your users' private data stays private. Anyway, let's do some privacy rule testing to learn how it works. So we've talked about this checkbox a numerous amount of times now. Now we're going to actually dive in to see how this works. So on the user data type, whenever you create an app, you will have a rule applied by default. And if I click on this link, it takes me to the privacy tab. And now we're looking at the user rules. And this is what Bubble sets up by default. The name is user's own data. Okay, so from that we can deduct that it looks like we want to protect our own data as a user. And the expression reads, this user is current user. This user is current user. And we're going to be writing some other similar expressions for other data types. So don't worry if you feel a bit confused about what this means, but I just want you to remember that the current user is the person holding the mouse, okay? So that's often the context of these rules. So we are providing access to data from the server to the user holding the mouse. And we're going to get into testing very soon. And this always needs to equal a true or a false. And then beneath this, it says users who match this rule can. And if this user is current user, meaning that a user is looking at their own data, then they can view all fields, find in searches such as a repeating group, view attached files, which we'll be doing with CV uploads in PDF form, and then allow auto binding. And auto binding we're not going to cover in the course, but it basically allows you to save data from an input without having to use a save workflow. It just updates from the input automatically. And then beneath that, as part of this specific rule, we have what can everyone else do? And I basically unchecked everything else. But now we're going to adapt this data slightly because some data needs to be public because this is a jobs board and a jobs board has users and users apply for jobs and companies interact with job applicants, otherwise known as candidates. So we're going to be adding several rules to enable us permission to the correct data as we keep on building this out. I'm going to show you the Scratchpad page because this will give you further context into how these rules work. So here on the Scratchpad page, I've adapted mine slightly just to show an image so it's nice and clear. So I'm currently Hannah at email.com. Hannah is the current user because that's me. I have control and I'm looking at my own data. So this user I'm looking at is Hannah and I'm the current user. So if we go back to this expression, when this user is current user, which is what we've just discussed is true, I'm looking at my own data, then I'm allowing the availability of all data from the server to be brought back to the page and available to Hannah. This user is current user. I've got a little repeating group down here as well with the same data. Now in terms of the everyone else section. Now obviously this is a jobs board and there needs to be some public data, otherwise the public or even people with accounts can't see jobs, interact with jobs, everything is unavailable basically. But we need to be smart about this. So just to give you an example, so if I come back to this page again, now I've got a repeating group down here and all I'm doing is a search for all users in the database and I want the avatar, their name and their email address. But I'm logged in as Hannah, okay? So now I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to allow first names to be seen. So I'm going to click on first name. I'm going to allow them to be seen in a search. Find this in searches. Now if I refresh the page, now we've got two results. We have my first name, because I'm also in the database. hey@buildcamp.io. That's my account. What if I said avatars are also available? I'm going to check avatar. This is the everyone else section of this rule. There's my avatar. Because maybe I am an applicant to a job and Hannah wants to be able to see my data. That's fair enough. And in that instance, maybe we would make their email address available as well. But we need to be slightly smarter about that. So I'm going to leave that for now. So Hannah can see my image, my name, but she can't see my email address. That's private. Only I can see my email address. Why don't we log out as Hannah and log in as me? And to save myself some time, I'm going to head down to all users and use the run as command. So I'm logged in. Here's my email address. I am the current user. So this user is current user. That's me. And now I can see Hannah's first name, not her last name and not her email address. So it's the inverse of what happened last time. So that's a basic introduction to privacy rules. Remember, privacy rules enable access to data, not restrict data, because it's coming from the server to the page. So with that framework in mind, just remember, if you're creating a new data type or if you're adding new fields to data types, which you'll be doing throughout your build, always make it a habit to go back, make sure your privacy rules are protecting data that needs to be private. I'll see you in the next lesson.